And a very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Issues and Attitudes. My name is Jeff Owens, Interim Director at WEIU TV and Radio. My co-host is Tristan Thomas.
Hello, how's it going?
And today we're going to be talking Tour de Charleston along with some other things. In studio, we have the one and only Tina Held from Carl and the Charleston Chamber. Welcome.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good to see you. We have Jeremy Alexander from EIU, an avid EIU cyclist is how they described you.
Yes, it is.
And you work in the housing and dining, right?
Yes, sir.
Pull that a little closer to you, my friend.
All right.
And also Dan Johnson, the race director for Tour de Charleston 2021.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
And you used to teach here, you said?
I did used to teach here, yeah.
Okay, that's cool. So we all have a little ties to EIU. Well, the Tour de Charleston, I know last year that you couldn't do it because of COVID. So I guess we'll start off there is it's going to happen, but what are the are there any COVID rules? We'll get those out of the way before we start talking about the race and what people can expect this coming Saturday.
Well, I'm going to defer that to Dan in a minute, but we did at the Chamber talk about that last year. Of course, like you said, we weren't able to host the tour. Normally, it's the first Saturday in June. We chose to push it back a little bit, hoping that we'd have less COVID concerns. So our date's this Saturday, as Jeff said, 9/25, and we did discuss this, and we left it up to our race director, Dan Johnson.
Yeah, so in terms of the COVID protocols and things like that, so we are going to have packet pickup the Friday night before from 5 to 7. So since that's in the city building there on the square, you will have to have masks to be able to enter the city building. You won't be required to wear a mask, of course, to actually do the cycling portion of it, but feel free to bring a mask while you're in the starting pens because, you know, when we're getting ready to start, you'll be close to each other even though you're outside. So if you feel comfortable, go ahead and bring a mask, but we're not going to require that.
Okay, that makes sense. So, and I guess I'd like each of you to describe maybe your involvement with the Tour de Charleston and kind of what your part is. I know you're the race director, but what that means. So we'll start with you, Dan.
Yeah, so basically I'm a local cyclist here. I've been working with the Chamber this year on making sure the course is safe, making sure that there's, for example, we had to do some rerouting because of road construction and things along those lines, looking at safety protocols because of corners and traffic issues, things along those lines, and just general promotion and safety and cycling guidelines is mostly what we're dealing with.
And with me being a participant of the Tour de Charleston for the last several years, I think I've done all of them. Just talking about from my experience of racing the 50-miler and telling people about how much fun it is. I mean, the race is fun. There's a lot of bragging rights with a local community with did I win or did I set a good time, and then just hanging out afterwards with a group of cyclists, both from in town and out of town.
Okay. And Tina?
This year, I chose to be the person in charge of locating all the volunteers. And we're still taking volunteers, so if anybody has any interest, we're also still registering riders. It'd be a great day to get out there. Also this year, a coworker of mine, another avid cyclist from the community, recommended Dan for our race director because I don't know anything about those types of bicycling things, but we were lucky enough to have him agree, and he's got some great group to work with, and it's going to be a good thing. We've had such a good response over the years with COVID. We hated to have missed last year, so this is kind of a new start to rebuilding. I know we have people registered. They're looking forward to it. We always hear great things about the courses.
Okay. Tristan?
I just want to interject real quick because, you know, a lot of people ask, is this a ride or is this a race? And so really it's both. There are some people that come out and they want to go as fast as they can and try to set a really nice time. But for the most part, the majority of the people that are there are just there to have a really good time, get involved with the community. We see a lot of children out there. We see a lot of families that come out and ride. We have a 12-mile route, a 25-mile route, and a 50-mile route, so that way there's different distances for people of different abilities. So we welcome everybody to come, and I don't want them to feel any pressure like they have to go fast. I mean, we have people who just, you know, kind of just pedal along at their own little pace, and it's all for fun, and it's all for the community, and there's no pressure to actually try to perform and race or be competitive. So I just want to put that out there.
Okay, that kind of makes it more of a community family.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's
right.
meant to be an event for the cycling community and the community as a whole to get together, spend some time with everybody, support the Chamber of Commerce in the city.
And with those different routes, are they kind of along the same path, or what do those look like?
Yeah, so the 12-mile and the 25-mile routes are designed basically for beginner and intermediate cyclists. So they go north of Charleston, which is, if you're from the Charleston area, you know that that is flat as a pancake. There's really no hills or topography up to the north of town, so they're meant to be for the entry-level cyclists. The 50-mile route is actually pretty challenging. We have people that come from several hours away specifically to do that route because south of Charleston we have the Embark River and Kickapoo Creek and several other waterways, which give us a lot of nice topography and hills, and it's really pretty, and you get to see some of Cumberland County as well as the southern part of Coles County. You go through the woods and along the river, so it's a really beautiful route. So if anybody has a chance and has the legs to do that, I totally recommend that.
I'm going to guess you're the 50, right?
Yes.
So talk about that. I mean, what got you into racing, and talk about the 50 mile that you're going to come up on Saturday.
Right. So I got into cycling more so just trying to take care of myself, get a little bit fitter. I used to do athletics growing up, track and field, and I got into cycling more so around that. And then when I heard about the Tour de Charleston a number of years ago, I jumped in on it. The first one, I wasn't as fit as I am today, and so it really was challenging, and still trying to do a sub 3 hour was a challenge, but it was a lot of fun. Like Dan said, there's that topography, so you do get to climb and you do get to see some really interesting things. And on a bicycle, you get this really interesting opportunity to see things that you can't see from a car and can't see while walking, because you go a little bit farther when you're on a bicycle. So we have folks that are going to be aiming towards 2 hours ish for the 50, and you're going to have folks that are going to take a little bit longer, closer to 4 hours. But again, it's not a race for everyone. Some of us are competitive and type A like that, and some people are just going to be riding along, enjoying the sights, chatting, and having a grand old time. And everyone is welcome, and I know that my family is going to be there. I have a little son, 15 months. He's going to be hanging out. He's not quite riding yet. I'm trying to shove him along on a bicycle.
2022, right?
Yeah, he'll be there. So it's a lot of different types of cyclists, and then we're just going to hang out and have a good old time.
As the race director, do you get a ride this year?
I'm going to ride in the 50 as well, just
You
for
are?
fun.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll ride the 50 as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, Tina, are you?
I'm not writing, no.
I knew that.
Yes,
I
We
I'll
tried
be
to talk her
assigning
into it.
some volunteers that day. But I do want to interject also what Dan was saying. I recall 2 years ago, we had a family of 7, a mom and dad and 5 children that rode the 12 and a half. Went at their own pace, and they completed it, and that's great. It's supposed to be good weather, I believe, and we're looking forward to anybody coming out.
Yeah. And I think the neat thing is, but also there are awards for the competitive types, and so talk about those. I mean, are those first through third, first through fifth? What goes on there?
There's the absolute placing for each of the races, so you get a first through third, and then you have the age group categories.
Okay.
So I mean, it makes it a lot more accessible for folks who are probably not racers to still feel like they're being competitive in their own age group. And again, it comes down to, all right, how many people who are under 30 who come out, and you might actually win that category, or you might win the over 60 category. So it's really interesting to just have that competition within your own age group.
I know one thing. I've been involved in Mattoon and some running races where we all put them on. One of the things about racers, and I'm sure this is cyclists too, it's not whether they're winning. It's all it's that PR, right?
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
personal record in the 12 or the 25 or the 50. So that seems to be a universal thing now. So is that something that is new, or I mean, talk about that. I mean, I never knew that until a couple years ago. I was involved in a race.
No, that goes back quite
Really?
a few
Okay.
years. Yeah, for road cyclists as well as runners, there's sort of an overlap in those types of culture.
Okay.
And we do have some folks that in the past who sort of have some bragging rights competitions between different organizations, like some of the like police officers, things along those lines, or different government employees or people at EIU who have sort of these little mini rivalries. It's all for fun, but internally to see who can set the best pace on different.
You don't
routes
have to
and things
convince me
like that.
interested on sports. 'Cause we're both.
Yeah, you get some people who are highly competitive. Yeah, for sure.
Tristan, go ahead.
Yeah, is this event are you still looking for volunteers to help with that event?
I am definitely still looking for volunteers. If anybody's interested, and we'll place you somewhere. I won't put someone that doesn't want to be way out on the course. I won't do that. We'll find something for them to do in town at a corner, just helping the cyclists be safe, monitoring traffic. So if anybody is interested in volunteering, you can call the chamber office. It's 345-3041, I believe, but Charleston Area Chamber of Commerce office. And one other comment I'd like for Dan and Jeremy to address. This came up this year more so than ever. We've always had some of the e-bikes.
E-bikes, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But we had a lot of questions this year, so I can let them speak to that.
Yeah, so e-bikes or the electronic bikes are sort of new to the industry. They've been kind of trickling out in the industry over the last 3 or 4 years. But one of the amazing things about the e-bikes is it's allowed for accessibility for cyclists who maybe are older or have physical disabilities who wouldn't be able to on their own go out and do 12 or 25 miles. So it's really opened up cycling to a whole new category of people. And so we do welcome e-bikes. Of course, we can't let you compete for a podium spot against people like, if Jeremy's got his e-bike, that's going to be a little bit unfair for me if he's, got his little electric motor. But we encourage people to go ahead and take advantage of that technology, get out there. It's a great way to participate and see the countryside of Coles County and Cumberland County and have a great time. I've been to a lot of events where I've seen older participants that use them to just kind of supplement, if there's a big hill or something, or if they just get too tired, and it takes away that fear, where they have a backup.
Sense.
So they're great to.
And I think in the world now, the less time we exclude anybody is better. Don't you agree?
Yeah.
I mean, just because of the way it is. Talk about the Charleston Trail and the development over the years, and Charleston really has now become a destination for biking and hiking, and anybody can answer it.
Oh,
Well,
gosh.
yeah, go ahead. Talk about the trails. That's certainly been a great addition.
Yeah, I mean,
Community.
Charleston's been great. I mean, we've had trails around Lake Charleston off and on since back into the early 1970s, since I was a kid here at Lakeview Park. And then, in the early 90s, we had the implementation of the Lincoln Prairie Grass Trail, effectively, that went from Charleston to Mattoon, that was a gravel trail. Yeah. The Charleston community, Mattoon community, have done a great job in expanding upon the local trail system around Lake Charleston. Now we have the Warbler Woods, which is a hiking trail. It's not accessible to bicycling, unfortunately, but they do allow hikers. And then they've recently paved the trail between Mattoon and Charleston, and they've gone with some bike lane expansion in Charleston and in Mattoon. And it's just a great sign because you're starting to expand accessibility, increase safety for cyclists. It also raises awareness to the drivers that cyclists are out there, because it's a great way for people to get around their community and to move back and forth, and it's a great lifestyle. It's a healthy lifestyle as well. So.
And as somebody who's a transplant to Charleston, when I just got into cycling almost 8 years ago, I didn't think there were that many cyclists around in the Charleston community. And in the last 2 years, I've seen a lot more folks here. I have the more avid cyclists who will go out and ride 25 and up miles per time. But now in the morning, sometimes I'm seeing folks. I talked to another guy a couple of mornings ago. He's like, he's just getting out on a bicycle for the first time, and he's riding a trail, and he's not going as fast as I would. But at the same time, I'm just happy to see that there are additional cyclists coming into the sport, and some are going to get competitive. Some are just going to ride their bike because they just want to see the scenery.
I have a friend from Mattoon. He always posts on Facebook like, I went out for a short 20-mile ride today. I'm like, short 20-mile ride. It's just amazing that it's really taken off in this area. Talk about you were talking about the race and everything, but talk about like times and how does everybody go at once, and the setup on Saturday morning so people know kind of where to be.
Yeah, so everybody has the option to pick up their packets Friday night from 5 to 7 at the City Hall. Race day registration, if you just decide last minute you want to come out and register, you can come out and do that at 7 a.m. The first two races will start off about 8 a.m. The 12 and the 25 start on the first 5 miles together, so they'll roll out together. And then the 50-miler starts, a couple minutes after that, and then they'll take off south of town. So the race itself kicks off right around 8 o'clock. But
so everybody does go at once, then it's not stacked.
Yeah, so the 12 and 25 go at once, and then you have a few minutes, and then we'll send the 50s off. So
okay. Is everybody chipped so you know the exact time?
That's right. We have a gun start, so everybody gets the same start time this year, and then everybody gets a chip so they can record their finishing time, and that's how we're going to do it. So everybody will get their times, and they can see how fast they go. So some people have cycling computers, some people don't. Some people have their watches. It just all depends. So again, it's mostly just to increase community involvement in cycling. I mean, like Jeremy said, I am a townie. I've lived here my entire life. I went to EIU for my undergrad and my master's, and I've been racing since I was 11. And I was on Eastern's first cycling club team as a student organization back in 1993. So we've always been really fortunate to have a really strong set of cyclists in Coles County, and a lot of people who've been involved. And I think this is a great way to promote that in Coles County.
think you might have asked this, or maybe someone said, how far are people coming from? Are they coming from, hours, states, and I mean, or they come from all across the country, or what?
I mean, we've got people from all over. We've had people, Indiana, some folks coming down from Chicago. We'll have family members come in from out of state. My little brother was going to come in last year from Maryland, come back and do it. So we do have people that come from a long ways, but we do have a lot of people that come down from Champaign-Urbana, Decatur, Springfield area, mostly, again, because it's an opportunity to ride the hills, and it's a good excuse to come over and ride the great areas that we have south of Charleston for those people.
Now, the Charleston Chamber and the city have to love that because that's bringing extra people, revenue.
And that's another goal, to keep the participants and their families in town for a little bit. And that's certainly the lake trails play into that. We are going to stuff race bags Thursday evening, and we'll put any information from other organizations that have anything going on that day in the bag so that people can see it and say what's going, say, hey, let's go here after the race or whatnot. So we'll take care of all that. But that's the goal, is to keep people here around for a little bit.
There you go.
What else is in those race bags?
There'll be some little swag things, advertising from all kinds of members of the chamber and their businesses. It gets their name out. We have great membership that have offered a lot of great sponsorships this year, which is wonderful. There'll be a lot of literature. Probably some of the guys don't look at it. I don't know. I can't speak from the cyclist point of view, but it is there. One thing I also wanted to mention, which is just an added note and a plug for the race, but also for the Rotary Club. Todd Villardo, Superintendent of Schools, is on our chamber board. And he's also an avid Rotarian here in Charleston. And they came up with a challenge. Rob Ulm will be running. He has pledged to run 100 miles. If you know Rob, that's not a big deal to him. And he will start in the night sometime. And Aaron Locke, who's the CHS president, who's also a bike rider, is going to see. They've given themselves some starting times and see who wins. And they're also using a pledge system. You can pledge by going to Rotary.com Charleston, and there's a pledge sheet. But it raises money for them, and it's just another added feature to add some excitement if people want to come watch
Just
that.
100 miles, Tristan.
Yes.
Just 100 miles.
A light 100.
So should
Is it a rain or shine event? I know if lightning probably would make, but I mean, if it's a sprinkler, we're going to go.
It's a rain or shine event, and I'll also just give Aaron Locke a little bit of kudos since Tina brought him up. But he's actually helping to promote a youth cycling group here in town. So he's got about 25 to 30 kids that he actually is working with to train on how to ride mountain bikes and things along those lines. So I mean, it's sort of just an example of how cycling is growing in the community, and he's doing that all on his own as a volunteer situation. And so we do have a really strong cycling community here in Charleston. So I just want to say thanks to him for doing that as well.
No, that's what this show's about, to get the information out that not everybody knows about. And we've had a lot of the different, the hiking and trails, and we did some stuff from WEIU with the trails, and it's becoming a destination, and people are spending weekends here to do it. So it's kind of a neat thing that nobody would have thought about maybe 10, 15 years ago. When you think about the race and the Tour de Charleston, what year, how many years have you been doing this now?
Well, I think we're calling this the fifth, but last year technically would have been the fourth.
Would have been the fourth, yeah.
Are there changes every year to make it different in terms of the trail and the path, or
well,
how's that
we're
work?
trying to grow a little bit each year and learn a little bit more, and that's why these guys are so important to our success, because we want it to be around a while. We want it to be an annual event. But one thing I did want to get to is that there's a Tour de Charleston event site up on Facebook, and their routes are there, and they can speak to that, but somebody can go on there and look at the routes.
As of this year, the routes were the same, except for the 25-mile route. We did have to reroute it just due to some road closures.
That's shocking around.
There's some rural roads north of Charleston which were about 6 inches deep of just freshly graded dirt and gravel. So we had to make one small change to that. But as of right now, the 50 and the 12 are the same as they've been in the last 3 years. We have tinkered with potentially changing things up, just to give it some variety. But we'll take that on next year.
And there's also been talk, I'm sorry to interrupt you, about a 100-mile at some point.
Oh, you read my mind.
Yeah, some people are pushing for a 100-mile route as well.
I think right?
Yeah.
Is that what you were going to say, the 100?
No, I was going to tag on about the Facebook group. There's also some videos about, I did a couple of videos of the 50-mile routes, and they reposted them. And so if you want to see what the route looks like, or even what the
did you
start
GoPro that or something?
Yeah, I have GoPros on the front and the back and on his bike, so we put a couple of different angles together, and I do it every year.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's cool as heck. So I'm going to ask both of you, since you're riders, it's not really about Tour de Charleston. What's the most, the longest race or the most you've ever biked in one day?
Oh, he's got me beat.
130 miles in one day, one ride. But yeah.
I've done 105.
See, here's your challenge for 2022. You have a contest between these two.
Pick these two.
Go the longest. And we'll just sit and watch.
Good,
by the way.
yes.
There's basically a competition every Tuesday and Thursday night between us and a couple of the other guys.
Oh, really?
We just,
Unofficial racing.
yeah, we just have fun.
All right.
Let's call it like bike till you drop or
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. Jeremy, we talked about the personal records and it being kind of a you versus you type of thing. Would you have any other advice for newcomers to cycling?
I'd say, again, stay within your comfort zone a little bit. Push yourself a little bit, but don't take stupid risks. It's when you see a corner and you don't know what's happening, slow down. You're not going to win a Tour de France here. So be safe. I'd say if anyone who's just taken up the bicycle for the first time in a while, you probably want to hang out on a 12-miler to get your legs underneath you. You don't want to get up and try to do the 50 that day. Now you have some bullheaded folks that are stubborn. All right, cool, you do you. And just listen to what your body is saying. Make sure you have water on your bicycle. If you can't drink and ride at the same time, stop, have a sip of water. Take care and listen to your body as you're doing any of those.
Is there water
activities.
stations and stuff along the route?
Yeah, we
in
have
case?
3 rest stops with food and water on the 12 and the 25 combined, and then on the 50 there's 3 rest areas that we will have people at for safety reasons as well.
Okay. The weather has cooled down this week, which is a big help for Saturday. I know that almost. I think fall officially hits today or tomorrow. So when you, but for like a newcomer or somebody that's what is the plan like for you two this week? Do you hydrate a lot? Do you carb up, or would you for those competitive riders? What should they be doing this week?
Everybody has their own.
Or is it too
routine.
late? I mean, for this week.
Well, it's too late for training, but for nutrition, you can still make sure that you're really making sure that you're eating things that you can actually digest really well. So like 3 days out, you don't want to be messing around if you don't handle spicy food well. Spicy food is probably not something you want to mess around with Thursday night on. Things like that. So listen to your body and know things about yourself. If you've never had something you're going to have some food for the first time, it's probably not something you want to do on Friday night
Not the
either. For the newcomers, it's listening to your body, making sure that your bike's in actually halfway decent working shape, that your brakes actually work, and your tires are pumped up, and
Do you still oil your chains and things?
Oh,
like
yeah,
that?
so it'll change. Yeah, I mean, even people who cycle, a lot. It's not uncommon to go out and oh gosh, I've got a flat tire in the morning because you ran over something the day before. It's just
Or
a lot of the
double-fatted.
incidents where we have people that might have problems. It's going to be because they didn't check on their bike the week before. It's the first time they've had their bike out for the few months, or maybe since the Tour de Charleston last year.
2 years.
2 years ago. But, I just encourage people to be social. For me, cycling is a very social thing. Find a friend, get a group of friends, have a good time, enjoy yourself, and that just really try to have a good time and have fun. That's really the most important thing about these things.
The Tour de Charleston is this Saturday morning in Charleston, and it begins around 8 o'clock. You can register on the day of if you want at 7, or pick up your stuff this week or go online to do that. Tristan, other questions from your point of view from the student aspect?
Yeah, I also imagine it's important to have a comfortable seat. Is what my brother's really into cycling, and he has one of those like saddles,
Yeah.
like a leather type. But I'm sure that's something people should also look for and kind of try out.
Yeah.
And I think fit is very personal. So what I find comfortable, Dan will think of that as a torture device. So make sure that you're comfortable on a bike. Sometimes that big plush cushioned seat isn't the most comfortable thing to be riding for very far.
Yeah, and Tristan, I'd also say, it's not just for Charleston adults and community members. This is for students as well, and for EIU students and Lakeland students. And I really encourage all the students to come out and participate, come out and check things out. Grab your mountain bikes or your single speeds or your fixies or whatever you guys are riding around campus and come out and do 12 miles and have a good time. And there's lots of restaurants and everything, and so I think a few of the restaurants maybe are giving discounts or something afterwards.
That's what I
and
wanted to
so-
ask. What other things are happening in Charleston
Well,
Saturday?
and we want to even each year build on that as well and make it more of a community event. We'll have a DJ at the site. And, another thing is that the mayor is going to be giving away 2 bikes that have been donated by Big Brothers, Big Sisters to 2 kids that have been known to be in need of that.
Oh, that's great.
And so that will happen right prior to the start of the race. Some of the restaurants up around the square are going to offer some discounts. We're going to have a coffee cart with pastries and coffee from Jackson Avenue. We really hope to build on that every year and hope to maybe make the square businesses and things going on each day. We've allowed them all to know what's going on. But I also want to make sure everybody knows that it takes a lot of work. We have help from the school system, tables and chairs donated. They'll be delivering those Friday afternoon. Kiwanis Club is manning a feed station back at the race site for when the bike folks come back in. Sarah Bush is providing a first aid tent for us. Lots of groups are involved, and we really want that to grow each and every year. So this year, coming back from COVID, we had set a little bit lower goal, and that's okay, but we want to make it bigger and better each year.
So how many are registered so far?
Right now
do you
we
know?
have over 100. Our biggest race, which I think was the third year we did it, we had 237 on race day. Now, a lot of people do register last minute, I think, but we really want to encourage that because it is supposed to be a nice day, and I think some of the riders kind of register late,
Yeah.
local riders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we really want to encourage that.
Now, do you do like a feedback from the riders so like they can say, hey, we think you should do this, or we loved it, or so you get some
Yes.
kind of idea?
There's a
How does that
survey
work?
monkey that comes out from the chamber.
Okay.
And then we'll share it with Dan and his group that are going to be marking the roads and that sort of thing and get comments. And we've always gotten a lot of great comments on the routes because of what they've talked about, the difference in the roads and what the scenery. But we'll get some that are constructive too. So.
Now, Dan, are you the race director every year? Is it one of those things?
Yeah, he's going to be.
Volunteer.
Tina has stepped up.
I guess this is my new job.
Yeah.
apparently.
I didn't know if it was one of those things like
Trustee
they rotate or.
This is my first year working on the Tour de Charleston. We also do an off-road race in Charleston. I've been the race director for that race two different times in the past. So we do also have an off-road race that's coming up in the fall as well. We're going to have again this year, but it looks like Tina's got her hooks into me now
Yeah.
for the Tour de Charleston. Apparently.
Well, let her share me. Either one.
Both of them, right?
We've
Yeah.
said it now on radio. So.
Yeah, it's locked in. We have a minute and a half left. Tristan, any other questions for
That's all I had.
When you confer with when you're riding, do you talk a lot with the other riders? I mean, and what do you guys? I mean, what's the conversation? I mean, is
The
it
weather.
Are you talking about sports? Are you talking about weather? Or?
I mean, anything that comes up. I mean, yes, sometimes we're talking about the ride and what's happening and what people are doing and then what we're planning on doing. And then sometimes we're just getting to know folks. I mean, Dan and I became friends because we rode bikes together, and we've talked about every kind of topic. What's the way? I mean, anything you think about talking with somebody, you go sit at a bar,
Yeah.
you do that on a bike sometimes.
Yeah.
There you go. That's what you do after the race, right, Tim?
Yeah.
Hey, you never know.
And we also talk about what other rides we're going to be doing in the future. So, people who are at the Tour de Charleston are inviting people to go out and do other
Go to
rides
Springfield,
and other
yeah.
races, and then when we go to other places, we invite people to come back to Charleston. So.
Now, next year, are you going to keep the fall, or are you going to go back to summer?
Well,
Has
I
there
guess
been
we
plan-
would see what the recommendation is from the riders.
It seems like it'd be easier to race in the fall instead of the June heat, but that's just
Yeah,
from an outside point of
there's
view.
pros and cons. I mean, there's pros and cons to both.
Harvest.
Oh,
and
yeah.
road conditions and things along those lines. So we'll see
Heat.
how it goes.
So, but
All right.
we take that in consideration for sure.
The best way to get a hold of you, Tina, if anybody wants any more information, is
I would just call the Charleston Area Chamber of Commerce, 345 number, and they can get a message to me. If you are interested in volunteering, they'll take your name and number, and we'll get back to you. Love all the participation we can. Even go out and cheer on the riders. And there will be, on the 50, there's a police escort out of town, so that's kind of a nice thing to do, to see.
Well, thank all three of you for coming in today and talking about the
thank
Tour de
you.
Charleston this
Thanks for
coming
having
Saturday. Everybody have a great day. We are WEIU.